Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to Vision IS News Today initiative. My name is Pratik and I'll be taking up the News Today discussion for 25th September. Starting off with the main news, we have the first news as Jammu and Kashmir Police arrests an alleged OGW, that is overground worker. So here we'll discuss the concept of OGW and the role that they play in terrorist operations and what measures have the government taken to address this menace. Second news is about GSTAT and GSTAT e-codes portal have been recently launched. So we'll look into the details and the features of these initiatives. Third news is about package to boost shipbuilding and maritime sector. So here we'll talk about the 4 pillars of this policy and this package and what exactly is the significance of the maritime sector in the overall economy of the country. In the fourth news, we'll talk about the expansion of PG and UG medical education capacity. So here we'll discuss about the medical education in the country and about the challenges that it faces in the country. In the fifth news, we'll talk about cancer deaths expected to rise to over 18 million in 2050. So we'll discuss some of the key aspects of the report and we'll talk about some India-specific data and some of the initiatives undertaken to address the cancer aspects in the country. Then we have some quick updates, and in the personality in news, we will be discussing Pandit Deendayal Upadhyaya, whose birthday happens to be on today. So we'll talk about him. So let's start with the first news, which is Jammu and Kashmir Police has arrested an alleged OGW, that is overground worker, for aiding Pahalgaon terror attack. And this topic basically can be placed in GS paper 3, internal security. So understand this from the perspective of terrorism, that terrorism is not a simple activity. It's a very complex endeavor where multiple stakeholders are part of this part. So in this, there is some sort of funding, and then there is infrastructure development and training, etc. are done. But there is also the role of someone who is playing as an overground worker. So what is the significance of overground worker? What exactly is their role? So an overground worker essentially provides for logistic support to the terrorist organization or the terrorist handlers. What it means is that it provides information about various ways to conduct terror operations, including about transport, etc., or about various places where they can put their bombs, etc. So all the logistics parts will be covered by the OGWs. And they also provide safe movement to the militants, right? So not just the logistic support, but also they provide safe movement. So they can take them from one place to that of other place. Then they also have several roles to play. The first role is with respect to recruitment. So they are very much useful to the terrorist organization for inducting or forcing youth into terror ranks. And this essentially has now exacerbated following the social media explosion, right? So now the terrorist organizations are also recruiting various youth members from using social media. And here the role of OGW plays a very critical role. Secondly, they also help in funding via illegal trade, counterfeit currency, and most importantly through hawala transaction. Third role that they play is in terms of coordination. So they talk with the separatist organized crime networks and they bring to them a common agenda. They transfer their messages, they provide some standard operating principles or procedures to the persons who are coordinating or who are conducting these terror attacks. So they provide all such information. And lastly, they also provide legitimation. They spread propaganda, which whatever propaganda the terrorist organization believe in, they would propagate and spread those propaganda. They would also radicalize the youth. They will talk about putting up arms against the state, and they will exploit grievances. So these are the basic roles that are played by OGWs. Again, you can counteract this with sleeper cells. So sleeper cells are essentially not overground, but they are underground workers, right? So they do not work in a very open way. They are very much in a very close way or in an underground manner that they work, but essentially they also function in the same way. And more importantly, the sleeper cell members can be directly involved in terror attack, but generally the OGWs are indirectly part of terrorist organization. Now, if you look at the measures taken by the government of India to address the menace of OGWs, the first measure that the government has taken is in terms of legal dimension. So under section 3 of the UAPA, that is Unlawful Association or Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, UAPA 1967, it bans several members. So recently in 2016, the Ministry of Home Affairs had notified that the Jamaat-e-Islami is to be considered as an unlawful association under this particular act. Why? Because many of these members were alleged to be participating as OGWs or overground workers. Second important measure is in terms of social way in which government is working. So how it is working? It is providing some developmental assistance to people who are victimized of terror attacks. So in this context, the government has the philosophy of winning hearts and minds, which is called as WHAM. So in this context, government has recently launched Operation Sadbhavna, which is for the rehabilitation of orphans and women. Apart from that, under this, Indian Army has also built school for the orphans and for the children in those affected areas. Thirdly, there is also intelligence sharing, so strengthening networks to track radicalization attempts. And fourthly, there is judicial way in which also government takes measure. And under this, government fast-track courts for speedy conviction of terrorists and OGWs, right? So these are the ways in which the government tracks or takes measures against the OGWs. Now taking a little bit detail about UAPA Act, what exactly it is. So UAPA essentially is it provides for effective prevention. So it is not just about the redemption, it is also for prevention of certain unlawful activities of individuals and associations. So earlier it was only for the associations or group activities that were involved in the terror operations. But recently, in 2019 amendment, government has also put some of the individuals as terrorists as well. So the reason for this was because individuals kept on changing their group in which they were operating, and they would also bring about some new groups. So therefore, they were essentially allowed to be part of those groups because essentially they were not, the individuals were not banned. So through this amendment, not only organization, but also the individuals can be designated as terrorists, and therefore it becomes more powerful to tackle these kind of activities. Secondly, it also has added International Convention for Suppression of Acts of Nuclear Terrorism 2005 to define terrorist act. So it has also included this important aspect. So nuclear threats, etc., can also be part of terrorism under this umbrella. If you look at the previous year question, UPSC has asked a direct question from this topic, where the question reads as, the banning of Jamaat-e-Islami in Jammu and Kashmir brought into focus the role of overground workers, that is OGWs, in assisting terrorist organizations. Examine the role played by OGWs in assisting terrorist organizations in insurgency affected areas. Discuss measures to neutralize the influence of OGWs. This question came in 2016. So now you have enough content to write on this, and definitely UPSC will not repeat this question, but if it asks a question which talks about terrorism as a larger theme, then you can talk about OGWs as one of the key stakeholders. Also, UPSC asked a PYQ in prelims, which were like this: operations undertaken by the army towards upliftment of local population in remote areas to include addressing of their basic needs is called. This, of course, is Operation Sadbhavna, as we had discussed. But I want you to write in the comment that what exactly is the meaning of, or what exactly is the purpose of the rest of these operations. For example, what exactly is the purpose of Operation Sankalp? What is the purpose of Operation Matri? And what is the purpose of Operation Madad? Always remember that in UPSC there is not just one question, it is actually a collection of 4 questions. So not only you should know about the right answer here, but you should also figure out what exactly is the meaning of these 3 terms. Moving on to the next topic, which is Cabinet approves rupees 69,725 crore package to boost shipbuilding and maritime sector. So if you map this topic to the syllabus, it is part of GS3 Indian economy. Essentially within Indian economy, we have a topic called infrastructure. So within infrastructure, you read about ports, you read about development of maritime sector, and also about the various development, export-oriented growth, etc. That is part of this. So first of all, we need to understand what is exactly is the role of maritime sector. So essentially, there are 2 major roles that is played by maritime sector. One is economics related, employment generation, etc. And the second one would be related to security, right? So there are 2 major functions played by the maritime sector. Now, the problem with the maritime sector in India is that it has very low capacity, first. The second thing is that it also requires long-term fund, long-term investment, which is also not there. Third, there is absence of greenfield investment because of lack of long-term investment. Therefore, the the investment in the new project, which is the greenfield projects, does not happen very frequently. Then fourthly, there's problem of coordination. There is approach which is very much siloed or which is very much separated in approach. There is no coordinated approach. So therefore, this package has provided 4 key vision or key pillars to address these areas. And if you look at these pillars, this essentially corresponds to the challenges that the maritime sector faces. So the first challenge that we discussed was in terms of low domestic capacity. So their first approach is to increase the domestic capacity. What do I mean by increasing domestic capacity? It means that we need to increase more ships, or we need to improve the shipbuilding. We need to also enhance the capacity of the port to process goods. We need to improve the logistics, etc. So all of them will come under the strengthening of domestic capacity. The second one is again important, improving the long-term financing. So that is very important. Third is with respect to promoting greenfield and brownfield shipyard development. What is the meaning of greenfield? Greenfield means new projects, and brownfield basically means that you are building up on the existing projects. And the fourth pillar is very important, which is to enhance technical capacity and skilling, and implementing legal, taxation, and policy reform. So these are the 4 pillars for reforming the maritime sector and the shipbuilding sector. Now, how are these pillars going to be materialized? And for that, what has been done is there has been some measures undertaken. So if you look at the measures which have been undertaken, the first one is with respect to shipbuilding financial assistance scheme. So this scheme essentially provides for financial assistance in the shipbuilding, and this is for both greenfield, which is for the newer ports or newer ships or new ships, and then there is also brownfield development, which is for modification of the existing ships, right? So this is essentially in the vision of improving the greenfield and brownfield investment in shipbuilding. So that is one thing. Second is there is improvement in Maritime Development Fund, and we had earlier discussed that it is essential for us to get long-term financing, and through this Maritime Development Fund, long-term financing can be provided for what? For shipbuilding, for repairs, for ownership, for port development, for inland water transit, and for coastal shipping. Third, shipbuilding development scheme. Now this is essentially, so first one was to exactly to build or literally build the ship. The third one essentially is for the expansion of the capacity, of the processing capacity of the ships, right? And fourth, we have created a body, or this body is envisaged to be created, which will oversee all the important initiative, that is National Shipbuilding Mission. The fourth vision, if you look at it in terms of reforming the policy, reforming taxation, and about all the other processes to ensure to coordinate with other major stakeholders. So this is a single nodal body which will be created under this mission, National Shipbuilding Mission. So what is the significance of shipbuilding? We have already discussed there are two major significance. One is in terms of economic significance. Within economic significance, we can write about jobs and investment, and it has a potential to create 30 lakh jobs and a potential to attract 4.5 lakh crore investment. Now, these data is important, and you can directly write this as part of your answer writing. Also, you should know that there is challenge that we face from countries like China, South Korea, and Japan. When it comes to national security, it will help, the shipbuilding will help in boosting resilience in critical supply chains and maritime routes for energy and food security. In fact, I would also like to add that it is going to have significant improvement or assistance when it comes to the traditional and non-traditional security threat. So what is traditional security threat? Threats which come from a sovereign nation. That is your traditional security threat. At the same time, there are non-traditional security threats, which can include piracy, which can include issues related to climate change, which can include issues related to disaster management. So all of them can be done if we have a robust maritime sector, including a good architecture or good development of the shipbuilding ecosystem. If you look at the PYQs, questions have generally come with respect to the security dimension of the maritime sector. So this question, why is maritime security vital to protect India's sea trade? Discuss maritime and coastal security challenges and the way forward. So in this, you should not forget to mention that 90% of our trade in volume and 70% of our trade by value, they come from the maritime route. Okay, so that is why it is very essential that we protect and preserve our maritime sector. Apart from that, we have already discussed challenges like traditional security threats, non-traditional security threats, and India's aspiration to become a blue water navy. And again, this challenge or this initiative can be written as one of the measures that the government is taking to improve the coastal ecosystem or the maritime ecosystem. Next topic is Union Minister for Finance and Corporate Affairs launches GSTAT. GSTAT is GST Appellate Tribunal and GST Appellate Tribunal e-courts portal. So this is very simple, that consider these development as an evolution of GST-based reforms that have been undertaken since 2017. Right? So GST was introduced as one of the major reforms of the indirect tax system in India. But ultimately, we need to know that any particular reform cannot succeed unless we also take care of some of the multiplier or some of the second order issues. And one of the second order issues with respect to GST was that there were several litigation that were pending up. Therefore, what the government has done is to create a separate appellate tribunal that will look into these disputes, and these disputes can be between citizen and any business group, or it can be with citizen with respect to state or center and state, so or center state, or with any of the combination of these, right? So basically the appellate tribunal is going to be looking into all these matters in a very simple manner, and the judgment that will be given again will be in such a way that is not very technical in nature. All the common people will likely to understand them because it is going to be in non-jargonized way. So let's take a look at what are some of the important details with respect to this. So GST Appellate Tribunal is established under Section 109 CGST Act 2070. What this means is that it is going to be a statutory body. Second, its role is independent second appellate forum. So the first appellate forum is the tax authorities only, and after the tax authorities, it is GSTAT. And it is going to be independent, which means that it will work without any interference from the center or the state government. And it is going to be a forum for taxpayers against GST appellate authority orders. Now let's take a look at the structure. So in terms of structure, it will be, the principal bench will be in Delhi, and it will have 31 state branches which will be spread across 45 locations. In terms of members, it will have 4 members, 2 judicial members and 2 technical members. One of the technical member will be nominated by the center and the other member will be nominated by the state government. What is the significance of GSTAT? First, it ensures impartial justice. Second, it improves uniformity. Third, it enhances cooperative federalism. Now let's take a look at GST e-codes portal. So GST e-codes portal in very simple language is a way to ease the life of people. Essentially, when you file any complaint at the GST portal, you'll get to know what exactly is, like you'll be able to file a complaint online or dispute online. You'll be able to see the status and the progress of the complaint online, and you will also get the updates or the resolution part also online. So without visiting the physical or without being in the physical arena, you will be able to get all these updates as if you are visiting the court in electronic form. So this is why it is called GST e-codes portal. So it's a digital platform to enable taxpayers to file appeals online, track the progress of cases, and participate in hearings through digital mode. And it is developed by the Goods and Services Tax Network, that is GSTN, in collaboration with NIC, that is National Informatics Center. So this is all about this topic. If you take a look at the PYQ which have come from this topic, it was very simple one, that is explain the rationale behind the Goods and Services Tax Compensation to States Act of 2017. How has COVID-19 impacted the GST compensation fund and created new federal tension? So what it means is that UPSC is asking question which is a combination of static and dynamic. So by now, GST topic is part of the static syllabus, but whatever changes happens because of recent developments, they should also be incorporated as part of your preparation. So definitely UPSC can ask a question with respect to the recent reforms that the government has initiated to further improve the working of GST. So within this, you can mention about GSTAT and GSTAT e-codes project or portal. Moving on to the next topic, which is Union Cabinet approves expansion of PG and UG medical education capacity. If we trace it back to our syllabus, it is basically part of our GS paper 2, social issues. Within social issues, we have 3 topics or 3 major topics. One is with respect to health, second talks about education, and the third one is with respect to skill development. And this topic touches all 3 core areas. So if you look at the scheme, or if you look at the news, this essentially is the expansion of the phase 3 of the centrally sponsored scheme to upgrade the existing government medical college and institution. Now, think for a second here, that what happens is that in several of the government colleges or hospitals, the existing capacity to serve patient is huge. But if you look at the number of seats per college or the quota of medical seats, that will be abysmally low. Now, the problem, this leads to underutilization of the resources. Therefore, government has done what it has done is it has increased the number of seats in such existing colleges. It has identified areas or the hospitals or the various colleges, and then it has expanded the undergraduate and postgraduate seats. Then, if you look at the status, now this is a very good thing that India now has 808 medical colleges, which is the highest globally with 1.23 lakh MBBS seats. But unfortunately, despite this development, if you look at the number of patient-doctor ratio, right, that is very poor. So we need to work on that. Second, if you look at the out-of-pocket expenditure, again, that is very high. So even though these numbers are encouraging, we also need to look into these figures as well, such as the doctor-patient ratio and also the out-of-pocket expenditure. So let's take a look at the significance of the expansion. So one of the problems with that of medical health or health sector essentially is that there is problem of access, which means that people do not have access to medical health care, and especially this is acutely felt in the rural areas. So through this expansion of seats, it is going to bridge the rural-urban healthcare gap. Second importance significance of this is that it is going to make the healthcare system more resilient, because now you will have practitioners from the same or existing colleges who will be part of the medical education fraternity. Third, it will improve the quality, it will improve the medical education to global standards. Fourth, it is going to be cost effective because no additional fund as of now is used. It is the existing infrastructure which is going to be utilized, and essentially for the tertiary care expansion. Now, if you look at the issues in medical education system, which is more important from the perspective of mains examination, first is that there is regional imbalance. Regional imbalance basically means that approximately 1/3 of medical colleges are there in the southern India, and therefore in the most, or it is accurately felt, the need for medical health care is accurately felt in the northern part, so this is not accurately met. Second important thing is, with respect to accessibility gap, 70% shortage of specialists in rural India, as per the Union Ministry of Health and Family Welfare 2024 report. Third, there is demand mismatch, especially in the rural area. 81% registered doctors practice in urban areas that houses only 31% of the country's population as per census 2011, right? So this basically reflects the fact that even though the urban areas constitute just 31% of the population, they have 81% of the registered allopathic doctors. Fourth, hospitals and infrastructure underutilized. Some government colleges with large hospital beds are still limited. So this is what the primary problem that we were talking about, and this is why this capacity utilization is going to be very beneficial here. If you look at the other initiative to expand medical education capacity, the first one we have already discussed, that there is going to be targeted seat expansion within this. Additional 5,000 PG and 5,023 UG seats in government institutions by 2028-29 will be done, utilizing the existing infrastructure. Secondly, there is going to be augmentation of infrastructure. Within this, there has been establishment of 22 new aims under the Pradhan Mantri Swasthya Suraksha Yojana, that is PMSSY, to provide high standard tertiary care and professional training. Thirdly, there is also development on faculty strengthening. Within this, there is issuance of new medical education institutions regulations 2025, which is going to promote inclusive competency-based recruitment. So it is not just about competency, but it is also going to promote social justice. So these are all of the development with respect to this news. If we take a look at the PYQs, so UPSC had asked a very analytical question with respect to this topic, which was, in a crucial domain like public healthcare system, the Indian state should play a vital role to contain the adverse impact of marketization of the system. Suggest some measures through which state can enhance the reach of public healthcare at the grassroots level. So here you can talk about the schemes that government has recently undertaken, not just at the tertiary level, but also at the primary level. So here you can mention about Ayushman Bharat scheme, you can talk about the Jan Arogya scheme, you can talk about how government is ensuring that the medicines are now affordable, and it is also ensuring that there is awareness campaigns, it is also enhancing medical seats, it is ensuring the medical education is of good quality. So here you have to talk about several initiatives that the government has taken. and still you can talk about some of the challenges that continue. Next news, which is cancer deaths expected to rise to over 18 million in 2050. This again is a topic which is directly from GS paper 2, social justice. Within that we have a topic of health. So this is a very important topic from that perspective. And this was essentially a report that was published by a study done by Global Burden of Disease, and they have done a forecast for 2050. They say that the cancer cases are going to rise by, or with 30.5 million cases are going to come, new cases are going to come by 2050, and the risk factor is essentially 42% deaths in 2023 linked to 44 risk. This include tobacco, diet, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, etc., and which has huge scope for prevention. So basically what it says that 4 out of 10 deaths that happen globally, they are attributed to preventable causes that get or basically for due to these reasons, right? Third, the top killers globally is, first is lung cancer, second breast, third stomach, prostate, cervical cancers. And if you look at the equity in terms of how they are accessing these resources, there's a stark contrast. Death increases sharper in the low and medium income countries versus the high income countries. With respect to India, India ranks 168 out of 204 countries in cancer death rates, and India, the first cause of, or the largest cause of cancer death is breast cancer, followed by lung cancer. If you look at the primary causes of cancer, first is the occupational risk. So if you are working in somewhere which is leading to air pollution, then it is definitely one of the causes of lung cancer. The second one is with respect to infection, including unsafe sex, leading to HPV, which is cervical cancer risk. Third, lifestyle changes is also one of the key cause of cancer, which is leading to rising obesity, high blood sugar, high alcohol use, changing diets affecting breast cancer risk, etc. Then there are cultural, geographical risk as well, including betel nut or palm consumption, which has a direct link to oral cancer. And then we have surprisingly hot beverages also cause cancer, including the esophageal cancer. Third, tobacco leads to tobacco smoking, chewing, bidis, etc. again leads to lung and oral cancer. So these are some of the causes of cancers. And so here what is important is that most of them are associated with lifestyle diseases, right, or lifestyle reasons, and very few of them are because of environmental reasons such as air pollution. Next, what measures government has taken to address the cancer problems or cancer issues? First is National Cancer Registry Program, NCRP. This is under ICMR, enabling evidence-based policy making. Second is under the Union Budget of 2025-2026, daycare cancer centers in all district hospitals have been opened over the next 3 years. And thirdly, National Program for Prevention and Control of Cancer, Diabetes, Cardiovascular Diseases and Stroke, which is NPC-DCS, under the National Health Mission have been launched. And lastly, there are other measures such as Next CAR-19 therapy. Tell me what exactly is the meaning of Next CAR therapy. Then National Cancer Grid, NCG, and tell me which countries are part of Quad Cancer Moonshot. So this is all about the main news. Now let's move to the personality in news, which is Pandit Deendayal Upadhyaya. And why it was in news? Because a lot of leaders like our Prime Minister or Home Minister, they have paid a tribute to Pandit Deendayal Upadhyaya on his birth anniversary, which falls on 25th of September, that is today. So about Pandit Deendayal Upadhyaya, what is important is that he gave the theory of integral humanism. I'm sure that all of you would be aware that he was one of the key members of the Bharatiya Jan Sangh, who was essentially the precursor of the Bharatiya Janata Party. So in a way, he is considered to be the ideological father figure of the Bharatiya Janata Party. And this is the key theory that he had given, and it is very important from the perspective of exam, what exactly is integral humanism. So this theory was given in the backdrop of two other ideologies that were prevalent during that time. One was capitalism, and the other one was Marxism or socialism. So Pandit Deendayal Upadhyaya sought to integrate or harmonize some of the elements of capitalism and socialism, but his idea was more towards culture, more towards nationalism, and more towards integrating the four elements of the human beings, that is body, mind, intellect, and soul. Apart from that, he was also very much influential in seeking that there should not be any contradiction between individual on one hand and society on the other hand. And he also wanted to ensure that even there is no contradiction between society or individuals on one hand and nations on the other hand. So if you look at some of the theories that the Western philosophers give, they are basically in terms of contradiction between individual on one hand and nation on the other hand. For example, liberty versus authority. So individuals want liberty, but nations basically thrive with some sort of control or some sort of patriotism or some sort of control. So what Deendayal Upadhyaya said, that there is no fundamental contradiction between the interest of the individual and the interest of this nation. And he also went on to say that the fundamental interest of all people across the world are harmonious in nature and they should be treated as such. Then if you look at some of his literary work, he edited publications like the weekly Panchajanya. So Panchajanya was a weekly publication and Swadesh was a daily publication, and he used these publications to spread across his ideas of integral humanism, cultural nationalism, patriotism, etc. So his birth anniversary, which is 25th September, is celebrated across as Antyodaya Divas to promote the welfare of the last person in the queue or to the downtrodden person. So this is all about Pandit Deendayal Upadhyaya. Now let's move to the next part, which is the quick updates. And within quick updates, the first topic is sixth schedule. And you may have heard about this unfortunate event that recently the protest for demand of statehood and sixth schedule have turned violent in the UT of Ladakh, wherein more than 4 people have already died and several people have been injured. In fact, the protesters have torched the BJP office or workplace in that area, and they have been vehemently demanding the sixth schedule status for a very long time now. And they have also provided their sort of analogy from the recently held Gen Z protest in Nepal. So this becomes very important, and this is still unfolding, so we'll look into this in major detail in some days to come. We'll track this development more and then we'll cover it holistically in terms of the legitimacy of the demand of the Ladakh here, because as you all know that the UT of Ladakh was created following the 2019 reorganization of Jammu and Kashmir state, which essentially created the UT of Jammu and Kashmir with legislature and UT of Ladakh without legislature. And essentially Ladakh has 2 districts. One is the Buddhist dominated district of Leh, and then there is a second district which is dominated by Muslim, that is Kargil. Again, both of them have their own apex body and they are united in this, that they want some more autonomy to be given to Ladakh. But at the same time, perhaps the government has concern because Ladakh being a very strategic located area, which has India has dispute with China recently. So perhaps India wants to keep a close watch and control it significantly. And we'll be looking into this development as more news comes. So for now, let's discuss what exactly is the meaning of 6th schedule. So first of all, you should know that 6th schedule is mentioned under Article 244 Clause 2 of the Constitution. And you would be aware that Article 244 clause 1 basically talks about the fifth schedule. It provides for the administration of tribal areas in 4 states, that is AMTM. So you should remember it like this, that is Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram. Okay, and this is about 6th schedule. And 5th schedule is operational in 10 states. Now tell me the name of the states in which 5th schedule is operational. Secondly, what it does is it empowers the governors to create 2 things, autonomous district council and autonomous regional council in these 4 states. And why they are important is because they get several autonomy, several power to enact law as per their own customary or customs, or they also get various legislative, executive power, financial power in terms of collecting taxes, then, and especially in respect of land, forest management, inheritance of property, marriages, etc. So this provides for several autonomy when it comes to 5th schedule. So 5th schedule basically provides for TAC or Tribes Advisory Council, right? So Tribes Advisory Council essentially provides or gives some suggestions to the governor, and then governor takes decisions on that behalf. So essentially what it means is that the 6th schedule have significantly more autonomy compared to 5th schedule. All right, that is why Ladakh has been demanding 6th schedule, and also it wants to be a separate state. Next news is about Appointments Committee of the Cabinet. And why it was in news? Because the Appointment Committee of the Cabinet has recently approved the extension of Chief of Defence Staff, CDS, till May 2026. The CDS is Anil Chauhan, so his tenure has been extended to May 2026. Now what is important here is the understanding of the term Appointment Committee of the Cabinet. As you may know that there are several parliamentary committees. Similarly, we have cabinet committees as well. In India, we have 8 cabinet committee within the union executive. So we have cabinet committee on political affairs, cabinet committee on economic affairs, cabinet committee on parliamentary affairs, cabinet committee on security, etc., etc. So there are 8 parliamentary committee, out of which 3 of which are headed by the Prime Minister himself. And these 3 are the Cabinet Committee on Political Affairs, Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, and Cabinet Committee, or this Appointment Committee of the Cabinet. There is one committee which is headed by Home Minister. Now tell me which is the committee which is headed by the Home Minister. Then if you look at the composition, it has just 2 members. I think this is the shortest cabinet committee, because in general, the cabinet committee has 3 members, 3 to 8 members. But if you look at the appointment cabinet committee, it has only 2 members. And which are the 2 members? You have the Prime Minister as the chairperson and the Minister of Home Affairs as the only other member. So this is very significant. So the question can come in UPSC in terms of arranging various committee in terms of their number of members. So you should know that in appointments committee, there is least number of members are there. What is the responsibility? As the name suggests, it is for the appointment, and definitely the appointment is going to be for very senior person, especially for the secretaries, additional secretaries and joint secretaries. Secondly, deciding on appointments to top positions in PSUs, banks, insurance companies and autonomous bodies. So this is all about the appointment committee of the cabinet. The third news is about ECI Net portal, and this is a news which you may have read about because it was in headline for several newspapers. So what it essentially says is that the Election Commission of India has now started with a new feature which is called e-sign feature on the ECI Net portal and application. So if you go and click on, or if you just click on the browser and type ECI Net, this is the framework that you will get. So this is ECI Net, and here you will find that there are 2 sections or 2 blocks. First is with respect to voter services, and second is about elections. Okay, so if you want to modify your name, or you want to edit your name, or you want to delete your name, you need to fill certain forms which is given here. So you have form 6 to add your name, form 7 to modify your name, etc., etc. So earlier what happened was that you can do this modification just by filling the form and putting across your electoral photo ID card and just writing down your phone number. But there would be no verification from the ECI in terms of whether you have given the right number or not, right phone number or not. So this is what led to the opposition to criticize the ECI recently, especially the leader of opposition, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, had criticized ECI for allegedly indulging in voter fraud. This is why this development becomes very important, because now if you want to delete any voter or you want to add any voter name, you have to do it through a sign which is ECI, which is a e-sign feature. So whenever you add anything, you need to use an OTP, or it has to be it has to be authenticated through Aadhaar linked phone number. An OTP will be given, and only then this number or this name can be edited, right? So if you look at what exactly is ECI Net, ECI Net is a unified digital platform of ECI to streamline electoral processes, including both the voter services and about elections, about knowing model code of conduct, polling trend, electoral results, etc. is mentioned here. And it will integrate and subsume 40 existing apps like Voter Helpline app, C-Vigil app, Suvidha 2.0. So all of them earlier used to be distinct and separate. Now this is essentially a consolidated service system that ECI provides at one single location. So it is a single point interface. So this is why it has assumed importance. Next news is about K-Visa. What is important here is that it is going to be given by China, and secondly, it will be given by those graduates who are especially from the STEM field, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Okay, so this is what, and the purpose here is to attract foreign science and technology talent. That is what is required here and nothing else. Okay, so it is K-Visa. Next, FIPIC. Forum for India Pacific Island Cooperation. And why it was in news? Because recently the External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, held a meeting of foreign ministers of the FIPIC. Now what exactly is the relevance or the outcome of the meeting? That is not important. But what is important is the composition, the structure, the mandate of FIPIC. So if you look at the FIPIC, it is composed of 3 groups of islands, which is Polynesia, Micronesia, and Melanesia. And within this, tell me where does Fiji lies? Because Fiji is very important pillar of India's of FIPIC, and essentially more than 1/3 of the population of Fiji are Indian origin. Okay, so tell me which of the island group does Fiji lies? Next, if you look at the FIPIC, it was founded in 2015. And it's a multinational grouping of Pacific Island nations formed for cooperation between India and 14 Pacific Island nations. Now, it was formed under the umbrella of Act East policy. So earlier, when India had Look East policy in 1992 till 2014, the policy was limited to Southeast Asia only. But the whole scope of India's engagement has improved drastically under the Act East policy. So within Act East policy, not only Southeast Asia is a matter of concern, but we are also looking into engagement with other countries, including Australia, including Pacific Island countries, Japan, etc. So entirety of Indo-Pacific region is basically concerned under the Act East policy, and therefore FIPIC becomes an important area of cooperation within the Act East policy. Now, this is all about this. So just understand that it is composed of 3 major island groups: Melanesia, Micronesia, and Polynesia. Remembering all the names will be difficult, so just remember a couple of names from each of these island groups. Okay. Next important news is with respect to spot market, where RBI has recently sold 2.54 billion in spot forex market in July. Okay, so you must be wondering why we are covering this news. So this news is important for two important reasons. One is it shows how RBI is playing a role in currency, you can say manipulation, or secondly, it is showing, and spot is the area, or is spot market is the instrument through where RBI is placing or playing the role of managing the currency. So you may have heard that Indian currency declined considerably with respect to US dollar recently, and particularly in June and July, the decline was very sharp. So under such consideration, whenever the rupee declines considerably with respect to US dollar, RBI has a role to play under the RBI Act. So within RBI Act, what RBI does is it sells some of the US dollars and buys rupees. So what happens is the demand for rupee increases, and thereby it leads to appreciation of rupee. So that is the purpose for which RBI sells these forex reserve. Now, the platform under which this is done is called spot market. And spot market is where financial instruments such as commodities, such as currencies and securities are traded. And they are done for either immediately or within few days. So essentially their trading cycle is very less. So consider the fact that if you're going to a grocery store and you're buying a product, you make the spot decision of buying or selling that product, right? So that is spot selling. And essentially, if you're trading with other countries, it is generally done within that time or within a very short span of time that is called T+1 or T+2. So max in India, we generally have a very short span of trading days. So this is very important for delivery, for exchange of cash for financial instrument. So this is different as compared to the other form of payment or other form of trading or market. That is the forward market, and forward market is essentially done for the agricultural goods. Why it is done for agricultural commodities? Because the farmers may not be able to predict the number of or the amount of crops that they are going to produce in a certain cycle. So they do a contract before the actual harvest, right? So this is basically the forward market trading that they do. But in general, for commodities, currencies, and security, we use spot market. Next news is with respect to UPI and why it is important. Why it is important, this Qatar has recently accepted UPI. So that is what is important here. You already know about UPI in terms of how it was founded in 2016. It is regulated by RBI and developed by NPCI, and it has a secure two-step authentication. What is important is the countries which have accepted UPI. The countries which have accepted UPI includes Bhutan, France. France is the only European country which has accepted UPI. Then you have Mauritius, you have Nepal, Singapore, Sri Lanka, and UAE. In fact, this question came in 2025 prelims as well. So again, this becomes important. So what is important is that Qatar has become or has also started to accept UPI. The next news is with respect to National Medical Commission. So what is there is that they have completed 5 years since its constitution. And what exactly it is a statutory body which was constituted under National Medical Commission Act of 2019. What is the what is the aim? Aim is to do two things. First, to provide access to quality education. And second, to provide affordable medical education. Because if you look at the higher education in India, it is plagued majorly by quality and by access. So to ensure all these two things, the National Medical Council was established. So what it does, it lays down policies for regulating medical institutions. It provides medical researchers and medical professionals. Then it ensures coordination among the autonomous boards, etc. So this is all about news today of 25th September. Make sure that you also attempt the questions and provide your responses in the comment section below. Thank you so much and all the best.